I think by the end of the summer, we'll be in a very different position than we are now. By July the 4th, there's a good chance you, your families and friends will be able to get together in your backyard or in your neighborhood and have a cookout or a barbecue and celebrate Independence Day. It's not like July 4th, the doors close. It's just I picked July 4th to try to get to a place where we get back closer to normal. We're going to be vaccinating people into next fall. This is not going to something all of a sudden July 4th we're going to just declare it's over.
Well, the messaging about COVID and where we are, the president today saying we're stepping up vaccination, access to vaccines, a number of different ways, and even as the FDA considers making the vaccines go to kids 12 years old and older. Meantime, the messaging about masks, it does raise some eyebrows. You had the Bidens visit former President Carter and Rosalynn Carter in Georgia without masks inside, and then as they're walking out of the house, they put on their masks outside. And even though the CDC guidelines said you didn't have to do that, they're all vaccinated. So what about all of this? We'll start there, bring in our panel. Harold Ford Jr., former Tennessee Congressman, CEO of Empowerment Inclusion Capital. Morgan Ortagus, former State Department spokesperson. And Ben Domenech, publisher of The Federalist. Ben, where are we now, and what do you think this all means?
We are in the total upside down, Brett, where all of these different political theater elements are coming together, where they're clashing with the experience of the average American person. One of the reasons I think that you saw the ratings, for instance, for the NFL draft's first round, for the Kentucky Derby, be as good as they were compared to Joe Biden's speech is that one of them looked like a post-apocalyptic wasteland where the Congress had been wiped out by something terrible. And the flip side was, frankly, something that approached normalcy, which is what people actually want to see and want to experience. When the president is talking about, oh, maybe you'll be able to go out and have that July 4th party, guess what? People aren't waiting to hear his permission in order to do so. They're going to do so anyway. And that's something that I think that we really don't appreciate when it comes to the power of Washington. Washington really is under the impression that they can dictate all of these things, but the reality for the American people is they're going to live the way that they want, the way according to what they perceive in their communities. And for most people, that is a return to normalcy, something that is fueled by these vaccines and that we should all encourage as being a good thing for America.
Yeah. The other thing we learned, Harold, this week was this communication between Teachers Union and the CDC about how they're going to phrase things about reopening school. The AFT, the American Federation of Teachers. Jen Psaki answered a question about that. Is it influencing the CDC's decision? Here's what she said.
It's actually long-standing best practice for the CDC to engage with organizations and groups that are going to be impacted by guidance and recommendations issued by the agency. It doesn't mean they are taking everything they want or even a percentage of what they want, but it's important to understand the implementation components.
But Jen Psaki also said that the CDC director was speaking in her personal capacity when she said there was very little chance that they could transmit the disease, even if they didn't have a vaccine, and they should reopen schools. So that school issue is really a big one, Harold.
Look, there's no doubt. And I think, again, thanks for having me on tonight. I think you got to think about this in the context of a year. We continually and constantly learn new things about this virus. I listened to the lead-in with then Vice President Biden, now President Biden, talk about how he had one date, then another date. He said things during the campaign. He has said things differently as president. That's because the vaccination rates are changing. One of the things that could really help us reach the normalcy that I think Ben aspires to and we all want is if everyone got vaccinated. Some of the most alarming news coming now is that vaccination rates are slowing for some odd and bizarre reason. What is clear is if you're vaccinated, you have less than a 0.1% chance of getting the virus. That's what we all should be aiming for. Now, in New York City, where I live, 80% of the students, even though the schools are open, are not back in school. They're learning remotely. So they're in school, but they're learning remotely. We know the damage that's having on kids. I think one of the things administration should begin talking about more and maybe working with Congress on is some summer school programs for kids around the country, some summer enrichment programs for kids where we might be able to put them in school or put them in settings settings where this learning can take place, because without doubt it's had a negative impact on kids. But I don't know the alternative. Did we want to put them in school and risk serious sickness or death? I don't think that's what we wanted, certainly not what I wanted. And I know, I think I speak on behalf of good Republicans and Democrats and Americans alike. We didn't want what we had to go through, but a lot of this we had to go through.
You know there's not a serious risk for that. You know there's not a serious risk for that. That's the reason.
No, Ben, I'm not a doctor, neither are you. Neither are you.
No, but a year ago, countries around the world started going back to school, and you and I both know it is minority students who are being hit hardest by this. They are being set back in their entire lifetimes by this. It is a desperate situation, and the teachers' unions are standing in the way. Why won't Joe Biden move them?
All right,
you
Morgan,
know that
weigh
he
in
can.
here.
Yeah, I think that what we have done to our children in this country by not allowing them to go to school is really going to be a stain on our history. And once again, it is the children of underprivileged incomes, single-parent homes, people who, let's just be frank, it's people who can't afford to send their kids to private school. These kids are getting left behind. Everybody who has children in private school, their kids have been in school for, gosh, almost a year at this point. Why can't the CDC and other health officials call the private schools and find out how they did it without vaccinating the children? And that's what I think makes so many parents angry whenever they see that public school kids falling behind yet again. Also, you know, when you look at what's happening on the vaccination side, we talked about this a few weeks ago in your show, it's once again the communication issue from the Biden administration, where there's so many mixed signals. Should you wear a mask? Should you not wear a mask after you're vaccinated? And I think what's happened is the CDC and other health state agencies around the country, it's become so politicized that I really worry that the American people are losing faith in these federal and state health agencies. They'd rather go to the CVS or the Walgreens, for example, to get a vaccine than to a state agency, because they trust those private sector institutions more than the public sector institutions that have been politicized, because they have not followed the science as it relates to school openings.
This is a breakneck turn, but I do want to get this in because it's an interesting thing. This is former Secretary of State, at the time Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, about al-Qaeda in Iran. Take a listen. Jen.
Al-Qaeda has a new home base. It is the Islamic Republic of Iran. Bin Laden's wicked creation is poised to gain strength and capabilities. We ignore this Iran-Al-Qaeda nexus at our own peril. We need to acknowledge it. We must confront it. Indeed, we must defeat it.
And now, Ben, a DIA report says that Iran-based al-Qaeda leaders are being hidden in there, overseeing the al-Qaeda network. Came true?
This is the level of irresponsibility that I think we have to expect at this point from the Biden administration, which is so dedicated to repeating the mistakes of the Obama administration when it came to trying to find a way to a peaceful relationship with Iran. It is a dangerous path to go down.
Want to talk about this more? Panel, thanks. When we come back, tomorrow's headlines tonight. Finally, tonight, a look at tomorrow's headlines tonight with the panel. All right, Ben.
Liz Cheney declares a global war on the GOP as she seeks to recruit Democrat support for her reelection. I think that she's clearly shown she's on the path out from Republican leadership and needs Democrat support to get back to the Congress.
Well, that'll be fascinating. We're following that. Obviously, I asked Congressman Brady about all that. Harold?
Hot mics, McCarthy and Cheney. The GOP family, like all American families, could use a little conflict resolution from time to time.
All right. Morgan?
Well, since it's May 4th, I have one for all of the Star Wars geeks. It looks like Darth Vader can even fall victim to cancel culture. So Darth Vader regrets his problematic actions and statements in the past.
There you go. Excellent. May the 4th be with you. I saw that on Twitter a lot. Thank you, panel. Tomorrow on Special Report.